Hello and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. I've just come back off an extended cruise. One of those things that is a wonderful vacation, wonderful treat. And it helped me to realize many things while I was away. First of all, my wife and I had a great vacation. We cruised down to the lower Caribbean, went to surprisingly what we call the Catholic Islands, St. John, St. Thomas, St. Martin, all of the wonderful islands down in the Caribbean. And it's a wonderful place to be. It's a great time in January and February to get away from people, getting away from cold weather up north. And I met a lot of such people on this cruise. Of course, we live in Florida, so it wasn't so cold for us. So still a great treat to be able to do such a thing. And I did meet people from all over the world on this cruise. Many Canadians, many people from Britain, a few Italians, a couple of people from South America, many people from North and South Carolina, California. It was a melting pot of people, mostly senior citizens like myself, but a few younger people, some people with families. It makes you realize what a beautiful world we live in. And one of the great things about traveling like this is you meet people and you get a chance to chat with them. And we hear so much in our news about how people look at America and the Americans, and they think of us with disdain and so forth. And I must say, that's not what I found on this cruise. I found many people who or from Canada and elsewhere, as I said a moment ago, who are very favorable to what's happening in the United States today. And they think that while it's a little scary for some of them, with some of the things that President Trump is saying, they certainly feel safer having America coming back into a position of strength. And they all know, we laughed a little bit about Canada becoming the 51st state, and most people know he doesn't really need to do that. He's posturing. And it has to do with tariffs, and it's his way of, taking a final slam at Trudeau on his way out, I guess. But most people recognize that we have a world that is filled with opportunity and change, and a place to be explosive in growth and so forth. I think about so many people who I talked to on this cruise. And we were talking about technology and AI and how different things were. And I remember saying to somebody, you look at what the world's like today. And I can remember giving speeches to people when I was in business, talking about how technology will change the world and how, what everybody carries around in their pocket today, in this little thing that we call a cell phone, has more computing capacity than they had in the entire Pentagon in World War II. Buildings and buildings of computers on certain temperature and miles of tape to produce what's capable on a single cell phone today. And that's the beauty of growth. And that's the beauty of technology and the beauty of new hope and new change. And that's what I found on this cruise today. I will say that I got up early every morning, and I said on my last podcast that I'm praying for people that I know, many people that I know and that I love, who are battling with cancer. And I got up every morning before the sun came out most of the time, and I'd go out on the balcony, and I watched the sun come out, or I went up on the top deck while my wife was asleep, and I thanked God. I thanked God for this wonderful world that He's given us. There's a song that says how wondrous His deeds are and how wonderful His hand is, how He made the sky, thunder, and the lightning, and all the beauty in this world. And I looked out at sea and I realized how much beauty there was. Just yesterday morning, I was out there and I noticed, as I was looking out at the back of the ship, the trail of the engines, which tumbling up the water, and off to the right of the ship, there was this one place where a whole school of fish were obviously feeding because the water was churning around and a bunch of fish were feeding on little fish. And then larger fish came in and they started feeding on that. And it reminded me of a chapter in my book where I talk about just such a thing. One minute you're grazing and you're eating on a smaller fish, and the next minute you're in danger. And that's the way life is, really. One moment you're safe and secure, and the next moment anything can happen. And so we have to recognize that there's always change in this world. And that brings me to another thing. I prayed every morning. I told you last week that I have dear people that I love very much that are battling cancer. One particular person, who I won't name, is battling chemo and radiation on a daily basis. Chemo once a week, radiation daily, and it will be doing so. They finished their second week. And they were doing so for another 4 weeks. And I made it my point to talk to this person on video phone every day to bolster their morale, to tell them that I love them, because I do love them. And I will tell you that the faith that they express back to me and the courage that they show is an example of what God is meant for us to be. To take what he brings, to believe in his mercies, and to believe in his omnipresence and omnipotency, that whatever he judges in life will be. And I love this person very much. And so I pray for their recovery. But I also pray for God's will. I think that's very important for us to recognize. On the cruise ship, there's this karaoke thing, and I'm a big ham. I love to sing karaoke. And I get up there and I sing. There was a song I was going to sing and never got around to singing it. It's a song by John Denver. And the song is called Some Days Are Diamonds, Some Days Are Coal. And it pretty much says, sometimes the cold wind won't leave me alone. Sometimes the hard times keep driving me down. And that's what life is. Some days are diamonds, and we have the reflection of God's mercy, and some days are coal. And I came to realize also that both diamonds and coal are the same thing. They're both made of carbon. And it was only a matter of God's pressure over millions of years of compression and pressure that drives out the impurity from the coal, that you end up with a clear, pure diamond. They're the same thing. They're both carbon. But God's hand is in them. And we live in a world where, let's face it, we're Americans. We won the gene pool. We live a wonderful life. The people who live the least in our communities, who have the least, who are the poorest, they live lives that are 1,000 times better than other people in other countries, because we are Americans and we live in this great society, this wonderful world. But it's all through God's grace. And we must remember always to pray for those less fortunate than us. And I think it's very important for us to remember the courage of this person I'm talking about, who every day gives thanks. And every day goes into that hospital for radiation and chemo treatments and hydration and so forth, and speaks the word of Jesus, the nurses and the other patients in the area. People keep saying, are you a patient here? No. He's getting his chemo and radiation just like everybody else. But he's a strong, solid person, a man I'm very proud of. I love him very dearly. And so I ask you again, continue praying for all of those in strife right now, for all of those who are finding difficulty, and give thanks for this wonderful world that we live, because it is an amazing world. I talked to some of these people who have come out of California, and the fires out there are terrible, destroying so many homes, tens of thousands of homes destroyed because of mismanagement of water. Just mismanagement of water. But they are hopeful, and they are looking towards the future, and they will rebuild. Some of them will rebuild, others will not, move on. But that's what life is about, taking what comes and making the most out of it, remembering that some days are diamonds and some days are coal. Some days are stone. And I know that. I know that full well. But right now I'm living in a world of diamond. I'm a very happy man. I'm sad for the people that I know that are sick, but I'm a very happy man. I'm in my early 80s. I'm 83 years old. I have my health. I can have a wonderful, loving wife. I have faith in my God, and I know he loves me, and every day I see I see new visions of it. I know that he loves me. He brings me in contact with wonderful people. I met a man on this cruise who does a podcast, a young man who shoots a podcast called Travels with Clyde, Cruising with Clyde. And Clyde was there with his camera and he was shooting all the thing. And he shoots all these cruises all around the world. And he told me he's going to Southeast Asia when he's on his next cruise. And he's excited about going there. And one of the things I noticed was while we had great times chatting, most of the time Clyde was alone. He went into the theater to watch a show. Clyde was alone. He went up to the disco to see people dancing. Clyde was alone. I'm pretty sure he ate dinner alone, too. I didn't see him in the dining areas, but I'm pretty sure he ate dinner alone. Which means that he's a man of solace. He goes about shooting this podcast because of what it means to him. It's not his business, it's his avocation, it's his joy. And it gives him some joy. But I couldn't help but pray for the man, thinking that perhaps he'd be happier if he had a mate or at least a friend to travel with. Then I met another man on this cruise. Yeah, a very interesting man. He was doing lectures on the cruise on the history of the Caribbean, the history of pirates in the Caribbean, and the whole history of cruising. And that's his business primarily. He does lectures and tours on the cruises. He and his wife are obviously retired people, and this is what they do. And they have a zest for life. They really enjoy life. And I think that's another lesson we can learn. To remember that there's so much that we can gain out of life if we just reach out and make an effort to try and do something. I met a couple from Canada, wonderful couple from Canada, from Ontario, Canada. And 2 or 3 times a day, we seem to cross each other on this big ship, thousands of people on the ship. And yet 2 or 3 times a day, we cross and we chat and we share little stories and commemoratives. And I told them that I do this podcast, and the lady said, "Oh, I'd love to know about it." So I gave her the information. And sometime later, she said, "Oh, I watched one of your shows," and she sent it on to her daughter in Canada. It's one of those things that, you just never stop learning in life. You just never stop appreciating and gaining the experiences of meeting people along the way in the least of places that you'd expect to meet people. And they enrich us. They bring us a new vision, a new zest for life. So I thank those people. I don't know if I'll ever see them again, but I will never forget them. I will remember them. Wonderful people. And I met another man on this cruise who was in a wheelchair, and he was battling things back and forth, but didn't stop him. He went up and down the elevators in his wheelchair, went to the casinos at night, and went out. He took the wheelchair up and watched people in the disco dancing. And he was enjoying life. It was obvious. He was enjoying life because he was alive. And he knew that God had something more for him. Not just the wheelchair, the joy that he got out of just experiencing life. So I remind you, it's never too late. Do something to make joy, to make yourselves happy today. Reach out to somebody that you know and go someplace or do something. Go witness this beautiful world of ours. On this cruise also, the reason we went on a cruise is because we have a couple that we met on a cruise 2 years ago. And they were celebrating their 40th anniversary on this cruise, and they asked us some time ago to please join them. And we said we didn't think we could do it. And at the last minute, just a few days before sailing, my wife says, "You know what? Let's go on the cruise. Make it happen." And somehow the doors opened up, and we got probably the last stateroom on the cruise. And we went and enjoyed this wonderful time with them. They celebrated their anniversary. And one of the beautiful things about it was, while he was on one of the islands, he went and he, unbeknownst to her, he took her into a jeweler and she picked out a stone, a ruby stone, and they had it made into a ring. And he went down on one knee and he handed it to her the way he did when he was a boy. And I saw the picture. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment. I'm very happy for both of them. And I know that they'll have many more years of happiness together. But that's part of life. Enjoying the joy of it. Recognizing that sometimes a diamond, sometimes a stone. And they were certainly celebrating their diamond. It was their 40th anniversary, their 39th year beginning and into the 40th year of anniversary. And they were as happy as can be. And we joined them at dinner and breakfast many times. But one particular dinner we went to in one of the most famous restaurants on the sea, a restaurant called Morano's. And it was fantastic continental food. And we enjoyed, and we tipped a glass of champagne, and we had all the specialties. And it just felt wonderful. You know, it's good to be king. Every once in a while, you got to tell yourself, it's good to be king. Enjoy these things. Ride the cruise ship anyway. Why not? So it's a reminder to me that my statue here, the statue of the armament of God, as long as you arm yourself properly every day and go forward with the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the belt of truth, the shoes of the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, and the double-edged sword of the word of God, nothing can harm you. You must believe, and you must go forward. And you must enjoy life, every day of life, because you never know when your turn comes. I know that all too well. We never know when our turn comes. And so people that are struggling today, we want to celebrate them. We want to pray for them. We want to ask God's mercy for them. And we want to say that tomorrow will be better. I'm quite sure tomorrow will be better. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my just rambling on. You can see I'm still wearing my cruise shirt. I didn't realize that until I just noticed it. But I had a wonderful time on this cruise. And my wife and I really enjoyed it. And I would encourage anyone who wants a vacation, a true vacation, where you only pack and unpack once and you go to different locations, different islands. There's different entertainment and music and all the various things you can look forward to on that cruise ship. It's wonderful. Treat yourself. And remember, tomorrow is a new day and it will be better than yesterday. I'm convinced of that. We're in this country now where Donald Trump is making headways every day. You know, the Democrats are still looking to knock him down. They're not agreeing. They're looking to block this and block that. I'm convinced it won't work. I'm reminded of something that Ronald Reagan said. I just saw it recently on this matter of fact. He told a story about how there was a Democratic convention. And outside of the convention was this little boy, and he was selling kittens. And he said, anybody want to buy a Democratic kitten? And nobody bought the kittens. Well, as it happened, 2 weeks later, the Republicans had another fundraiser in the very same place. And this reporter, the same reporter, was there, and he sees the same little boy holding up kittens, and he says, anyone want to buy a Republican kitten? And the reporter said, how are they Democrats last week and Republicans this week? What's the difference? And the little boy says, well, now they have their eyes open. And I guess that's the truth about what we're seeing across this country. We have our eyes open. We see what's being found, what's being uncovered, and we recognize that the people that are trying to stop the search for fraud and the elimination of all that stuff, probably the people with their hands in our pockets. But we will come through this too. We will have a better nation for this. We will all prosper for this. And the people who are least likely to like it are going to gain as well, just like everybody else. So once again, I say to you, everybody's got their own story. This is my story for today. Tell your story. Make it a good one because it's your story. Share it with the people you love. Remember to subscribe and tell us a thumbs up, but give us a comment if you like what you're hearing. This program is brought to you by you and for you. There are no sponsors. Just my book does it. That's it. My book is To Every Page You're Turning. It can be found on Amazon. And as I tell you every time, take somebody you love today, give them a big bear hug and tell them you love them. Tell them you love them. Maybe the only time they hear those words. And I'm quite sure God loves them also. So, God bless you all. Go on a cruise. You'll enjoy it. Bye.